Hello, it's T with Teresa H Creates, and it has been a minute. I was under the weather last week, and so I took a little break to rest and recover. I didn't think that you guys would appreciate the nasal voice and all of the sneezing and snooting that was going on, so I thought I'd spare you. But I'm feeling much better now and ready to continue with my Alice in Wonderland journal project. So I showed off this book in one of my recent videos, and this is Alice's. It's one of the great classics for children. This is the Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and as you can see, I picked this up at Half Price Books for $2.99. And it is a hardcover book, and I had originally thought that I would just use the pages because it's got a lot of illustrations, and I thought that I would use these pages in some of my other journals, and then decided that, you know what, I think I'm going to go ahead and make an altered book out of this one. It is a nice book, maybe not one that I necessarily would have chosen, but it's a really nice size. This is a really good size book to start with for a junk journal, and so I prefer kind of a thin book. When I first started doing altered books, I jumped in with a really thick journal thinking, oh, well, I wanted a chunky one and I wanted to fill it up. And I almost did not finish it. It was so much. There really ends up being a lot more that goes into it than you originally think as you're ripping pages out of your book to prepare it. But I wanted to go ahead and go through the process of getting this book ready for altering. And so I am by no means an expert at this. I've done a few. This is just the way I do it. I'll share some tips with you as far as it goes for me, but there are tons of videos for altering or preparing altered books or preparing books for altering. And this is honestly probably the easiest way to get into journaling, especially if you're a little intimidated by creating the covers and the binding and doing the actual stitching in any way. That this is a good way to start. But let me go ahead and show you what I've done. So you can see here that there are many signatures in this book, and I went ahead and found the center of each signature and paper clipped them together, which is actually a very good thing because you'll see when I open this up, a lot of the threads for the signatures were hidden and it took forever. So I'm glad that I did not make you guys watch me searching for signatures. So I'll be able to just jump in and show you how this goes. So if I open this book wide, you can see on the spine that it'll separate a little bit here. So it's not actually attached to the spine. It's attached here with these pages that are attached to the cover, and these are sewn in. So it's not, there's some space between this, the back of the pages and the actual spine of the book. So we want to remember that as we're removing pages and moving through this. So first of all, I wanted to go ahead and identify, before I started ripping anything out, where my signatures are. So I've done that by paper clipping. And so we'll start with doing a couple of these, and then I'll probably end up just, pausing this and coming back when I've completely finished it. But let's see, these two pages here are glued together. And so you always want to keep the first few pages of the book intact because you don't want to stress the spine itself. So we want to keep those pages in there. So I would naturally just keep all of these in there. And it just so happened that the signatures aren't very big. I believe they're like 8 pages per signature. So it's, and I was able to find this one fairly easy. You can see here the actual stitching. And so this is the center of it. And the reason why you want to, you want to identify whether or not your book that you're using for altering is glued in or if it's actually stitched in. Because once you start tearing pages out, the page that it's opposite of will also come out. So you may end up losing more pages than you wanted to that way. So for right now, I'm going to keep these. So this is the center. I'll paper clip those back together. And I'm actually going to start with the second signature because I really want to make sure that this first signature here is that it looks good and it's nice and healthy, because I'm a little bit worried about the way that this lip is right here. And so I don't want to start ripping out too many pages so close to the edge of this and end up compromising the integrity of the book itself. So there is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is one signature. It's 8 pages. So then 1, 2, 3, and then here's the 4th. So this is the next signature. As you can see, I had to look in here and almost turn it in order to find that, and it just took forever for me to find those. But you can see that it's in there. But when you're looking at it like this, it's not obvious. So I did have to hunt. But once you have found the first 2, you should be able to count the pages then. You'll know how many pages in each signature, and then you should be able to count them to move forward. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this right here is going to be one signature. And typically what you would do is, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove, see, you can already see as I'm starting to pull this up, it's going to pull right out. And that's why if you just start going in and ripping pages, you're going to lose the other half of all of those other pages. And so that's what I meant. So I'm going to start with this at the center of the signature, and I'm going to remove a lot of these. And I've seen some people come in and actually snip them, and it still kind of remained, kept its integrity. I'm not going to snip them. I'm going to leave them in there. I'm not going to snip that. That makes me a little bit nervous, so I'm not going to do it. So this is the first and last page, and so what I'm going to do is, and I really like this, so I'm a little bit sad that that's going to get covered up, but it will. So what's going to happen is I'm going to paper clip this together. So where I have removed all of these pages in the center, I am going to glue these 2 together. And typically what I would do is I would go through and remove all my, well, that's what I'm going to do, because I really want them to lay just right. So I am going to go through and continue working on this. I'll do one more signature. So it's 1, 2, 3. Actually, this is the beginning of the next one. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Okay. So this is the center. No, it's not. Let me go back. 1, 2, 3, and I'm telling you. Okay, so this is the center right here. You can see them. It's in there pretty good. So I'm going to carefully start removing. And I'm not going to remove the last page because this is how I'm going to kind of reinforce. Okay, one more. So then to make this a little bit more sturdy, what I'll do is I'll come back after all the pages are removed and I will glue these together so that this will make this a little more sturdy. And then this is going to end up being the pages that we decorate in the book. So this will be one, this will be one. And I am going to continue tearing out my pages in the signatures. And then I'll come right back when I'm done and we'll start gluing the pages together. All right, and now I am back with the majority of the pages pulled out of this journal. Now, if I hold it closed, you can see how many pages. Look at how empty it looks, but this is going to give me the space to start adding all of that ephemera, all the pockets and tucks and things into this book. And so that's, I know that it can be daunting and I know that this can look scary, but believe me, by the time this is done, it will still be a gator mouth book, I promise. And so the one place I wanted to stop was at the end and the beginning because I wanted to show you how I'm going to go about, like the thinking about going about which pages to keep and which pages to give up. So this, like the beginning of the book, the end of the book, Also has this lovely blue sheet and this page. Now, this page is part of the signature. However, this page is partially glued here. You see that? See how it's glued to that as an attachment? So I don't want to lose this page. I am going to keep it to help reinforce the binding or the spine. I really want the integrity of the book to stay intact, and that's really what you're looking for. And this is kind of I wouldn't say brand new, but I think it's a newer book. So it'll be probably a little bit better than some of the older books. When you get into the really old books, you have to really be careful about picking and choosing which books you're going to use. If the binding is already super, super loose, or the spine is really loose and the book wobbles a lot, then most likely it could fall apart. I say, honestly, give it a try. If it's something that you really want to try altering, there are ways to help reinforce those spines as you go along, and there are things that you can do to help repair it if it does fall apart. If it does fall apart, take your covers, make your own spine, stitch in your signatures. So there's always a way to fix it. So don't let fear keep you from just jumping in and doing it. So this one was copyrighted in 2009. So a newer book. So it's pretty sturdy. I'm not too worried about it, but I still, like I said, want it to last a while. So I'm going to glue these two pages in the back together. And my lovely tools, the tools that I use for doing this are just jumbo paper clips for identifying the signatures and putting them together. And then the clothespins. I have a bunch of clothespins that I use to kind of just clamp here and there and just move it back. So nothing fancy, very inexpensive stuff, but those are the tools that I use when I go about doing this. And I really feel like before you go in and just start ripping pages out, you really need to identify your signatures and how your book was made. If your book was glued in, typically what I would do with a glued in book is take my my little sharp edge here, and I would probably remove every 6-7 pages and then glue that together in the center after I remove those pages, and I would cut them out as opposed to tearing them out. Some people tear them out, some people cut them out. You just really have to find what works for you and what do you think is going to work best for that book, that particular book. Like I said, some of the newer books, because they're newer and a little bit stronger, they're more forgiving, so ripping it out could still work. So anyhow, so these two pages, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and glue together since they're partially glued anyhow. And then this is the center of my signature. I am going to keep these two pages because they're so close to the end of this book, and I am going to glue these together. So let me get my paper clip out. And I'm going to go ahead and mark these just so that it's super obvious. So these are going to get glued. These two will be glued together. And then this is the center of the signature. And you can see there's the stitching. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. And then I am going to, so that leaves an odd number on this side. So it's 3 pages on this side, and I am going to glue all 3 pages together. And let me paper clip that, and I'm going to do the same in the front. So let's go back here. So these 2 pages, like I said, are partially glued anyhow. Sorry, these 2 pages are partially glued anyhow. I'm going to go ahead and permanently attach them all the way up. I'm going to count these 2 pages are going to stay together. I'm going to glue those in. This is my center of my signature, and there's the stitching there. So I'm going to carefully remove this. And then there should be 3 pages on this side, and these 3 pages I will glue together. And unfortunately, in this whole process, I am going to lose some really nice images, but I also have a ton of papers with really cool images that I've pulled out, and I'll hold on to these because I will be using the images from these and other in some of the other books, and we'll repurpose those. So definitely want to hold on to those. So let's get to gluing. And then now that I've got that done, let's look and see how that looks. Looks good. Okay. I've got some parchment paper here. And I don't use anything fancy for this. I've got a Tombow mono glue stick. It's a permanent glue stick, and I'm going to use the glue stick to glue this down. I want to get all the way to the edges. And so that is why I put the parchment paper in there, so I could get all the way to the edges and not worry about it. Okay. Let me get in here. And you really want to make sure that that is nice and flat. Let me get something to... I like using my my Cricut scraper to kind of burnish these down. If you've got a bone folder, an old credit card, an old gift card will also work to kind of burnish these down. There it is. And you might get some bubbling and warping. Shouldn't be too bad. All right. And now, next 2 pages. I'll do a couple of these and then I'll go through and do the rest of them off camera so that you're not forced to sit here and watch this whole tedious process. But I kind of wanted to just give you an idea of what this looks like. And again, this is just the way I do it. There are a million different ways to do it. Some people use double-sided tape. Some people use glue sticks. Some people use different types of glue sticks. Some people use a combination of glue sticks and double-sided tape. Some people use wet glue. It's your preference. It's whatever you prefer to meet with. Now, the one thing I will say is when we start laying these pages down, you really want to make sure that your book isn't being pulled. Like, you want to make sure that the spine, so that these line up. Otherwise, and you can, it's easier to feel and to see than it is to explain on camera, on video, what this looks like. But I hope that I'm making sense here, so that as you go along, it's not doing any unnecessary pulling on the spine, and then your pages end up being uneven. So you really kind of want to shift your spine. So when I get to the back, I'm not going to glue it like this either. I'm going to lift, hold the spine flat so that the pages aren't being pulled and they end up gluing together uneven. Now, if you do have uneven pages, really not a big deal. There are lots of things you can do to cover that. But I just don't want to, and sometimes it'll happen even when you're super careful. I just don't want to start off that way, just kind of haphazard. I want to start off being as careful as I can possibly be with the whole process. And then if it happens, it happens. Now, one thing that you'll notice that a lot of people do in this process is make pockets while they're making their junk journals with these pages that are being glued together. I don't do that. I'm not going to with this particular book anyhow. That's not to say that I won't ever in the future. I may, but I'm not going to with this book. And see, look, I got a little crease in there because I wasn't as careful as I should have been. And I ended up creasing, but it's fine. Texture, right? And what I mean by pockets is as they're going along, and instead of gluing these together straight, some people could fold this down and then just glue the bottom and the side, and then there you have a pocket. Or you could just glue the sides here and then you've got a side pocket. Or you could glue the bottom and this side and you have a top pocket, and then you can even cut down. You can fold over and then just glue here and here and have a tuck spot. So some people build those into these bases, and I did that. And the reason I don't do it as much anymore is here's a small book that I'm altering, and it was for Christmas, and I did work that into some of these pages, and it caused warping or this bending. And so I don't particularly care for that. And that's why I went back and decided that I would add them on later instead of trying to make them from the pages themselves. Because I don't care for it. And see, and it doesn't do it every time. This one, no pulling, no warping, but I didn't make it from the book page. I added these later, but this one was actually done with the book page. That's right under this paper. The paper actually tucks into it. I don't know if you can see. I had covered that piece of paper with this. I'd covered the book page with this particular piece of paper and created the pocket itself, and then glued them together. And like I said, it just caused that warping, and I don't particularly care for it. And it doesn't do anything to the integrity of the book necessarily. It just doesn't aesthetically look great to me. It doesn't look great. And it's not one that I would sell. I would end up keeping it for personal use or giving it to someone who, really, really wanted it or understood, what happened there, and that doesn't affect the integrity of the book itself. But anyhow, so that is just a personal preference. Some people are totally fine with it. It bothers me, and I don't do it. So here is what I mean. So this is what we're seeing here. By your pages not always lining up. And these aren't quite lining up. See, and those are a little bit off, even as much as I'm trying to give the book spine itself. It's just not going to line up, and that's fine. And it's just because this is that three-pager, and the page that it coordinates with is glued down over here. And so that's fine. It's not going to cause any problems, and it can easily be hidden with some washi tape, with some decorative paper, by putting a border on this, or just leaving it as is, putting some lace on it, what have you. Anyhow, so that is kind of the process. Clear as mud now, right? If you have any questions, please leave comments down below. I'll always respond. I'll try to answer. And like I said, I am not super experienced at this. I've done it enough times, and I know what I'm comfortable with. There are lots of different ways to do this. However, I will tell you that the process that I went through was just watching so many other makers do their thing, picking up tips here and there, and then getting in and working it myself and figuring out what makes sense, what works for me, what process do I like. And that's why I think it's worth repeating over and over again, because it may make sense to one of you out there what it is that I'm trying to say, and then to others it may not. And that's fine. If I reach at least one person, that's enough for me, right? So I just really want to encourage people to just jump into it. It's so much fun altering books, making journals. It's a lot of fun. It's a labor of love for sure. I truly enjoy it. And I just want for everyone else to do it too. And I was intimidated by it for the longest time and probably spent more time watching videos than I should have. And really the only way to do it is to just jump in it and start doing it. And there's nothing that you're going to irreparably screw up or anything that I haven't, that can't be fixed. So I'm going to continue with this process. I'll be back when all the pages are glued together, and we will talk next steps. All right, I did figure out something else that I wanted to share with you. So as I'm going along here in the process, I'm noticing that I'm starting to get a little bit more and more off. And so that tells me that it's time to switch to the back and to do to start gluing down these pages. And so for it to not pull in one particular direction, or for the pages to line up a little bit more evenly, I think it's best, and what I prefer to do is to start at the beginning, glue some of them together, go to the back, glue some of them together, and kind of work your way in and kind of alternate until it's all done. And so that is what I'm going to do. And that, again, it's just a personal preference. I just find that the book, I think, comes together a little bit nicer. The pages lay a little bit flatter. It's a little bit easier to work with, and I don't get so much variation on the ends of the pages if I alternate going from the back to the front to go ahead and glue these pages down. I feel like it works a little bit better for me, and overall makes the book look a little bit better. Feels a little bit stronger, and I don't have as much pulling when I get to the center. I feel like if I was doing it all and kind of pulling these pages towards the front the whole way and working all the way to the back, it would really feel a lot more off once I got to these pages, because it would be pulling more towards the front. And so by alternating, I think that you avoid some of that, and hopefully that makes sense. So just one other tip, and I will continue gluing. Back soon. All right, and that's it. I have glued all the pages together. So this is what the book looks like now, and you can see that a lot of that filler is gone, but there's still plenty in here. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 pages still left to decorate and to add tuck spots and journal cards and to just really have fun with it. So next steps will be to decorate. And I had originally pulled out a set that I thought that I was going to decorate this book with. And even though it says the great classics for children, and it's got this nice classic picture on the front, which I kind of wanted to keep this part of it, but I really wanted to use the illustrations. But when I look at the illustrations, they're a little bit different. They're not as classic. They kind of have an anime. See, look, good thing I'm flipping through this. I got to glue that together, glue that down. Anyhow, they kind of have kind of an anime type feel to them. So I may have to rethink. See, the illustrations themselves feel a little bit different. So I may have to rethink something other than the classic stuff that I was going to use initially, and go a different direction with this. So I've got to think that over, but in the coming weeks, I'll be putting together the covers for the books for my little golden books, putting those together, getting those organized, and then also working on ephemera, lots and lots of ephemera, and start pulling these together. I'm ready to see what this looks like, and hopefully it's not going to take forever. My plan is to probably have the whole series and have all 8 of these journals done by mid-May. Fingers crossed, mid-May. Sounds like a good time, right? Anyhow, I hope that you enjoyed this, that you found it useful, that at least you have one takeaway from this. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I appreciate all of your support. If you've subscribed to my channel, thank you. If not, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Like and comment. That always lets YouTube know that you guys are interested in seeing more. And I will see you guys later. Bye.